Beneath the peaceful surface of Turkey lies an entire hidden world. This is Cappadocia, a land famous for its fairy chimneys, but defined by its vast subterranean cities carved directly into the stone. We will journey deep underground to uncover exactly how and why ancient peoples built these multi-level marvels, and you will learn the full, astonishing story of the communities that thrived in the dark. How did they build ventilation shafts that reached the surface without being detected? What compelled them to abandon these intricate sanctuaries so completely? By the end, you will understand the incredible scale of these ancient engineering feats and the human spirit that forged them. What does it truly mean for a civilization to seek refuge in the earth itself? Millions of years ago, a series of colossal volcanic eruptions reshaped this land forever. Enormous mountains spewed forth immense layers of ash and lava, which settled and compressed into a uniquely soft stone called tuff. This was the raw material, the geological gift that would one day make the impossible possible. Over countless centuries, the relentless forces of wind and water began their work, carving the soft rock into the surreal, dreamlike landscape we recognize today. Those iconic fairy chimneys and deep, winding valleys are not just beautiful sights. They are the direct result of this ancient, violent genesis, a testament to nature's power to create and to sculpt. This soft volcanic tuff possessed the perfect properties for ambitious builders. It was firm enough to hold its shape, creating stable, lasting rooms and tunnels that would not collapse easily. Yet it was also remarkably soft, allowing it to be carved with relative ease using simple stone and metal tools. You can think of it as a giant block of hardened clay, waiting for an artist's hand. Without this specific type of rock, the grand vision of underground cities would have remained just a dream. The very earth itself provided both the inspiration and the means, setting a stage unlike any other on Earth for a story of human survival and ingenuity written in stone. The identity of the first people to carve into this soft stone remains one of Cappadocia's most enduring mysteries. Long before the famous early Christians arrived, other civilizations were already shaping the underworld. Archaeological evidence points to the Hittites, a powerful Bronze Age empire, as the probable pioneers. Over 3,000 years ago, they may have begun the first excavations, creating simple underground chambers. These were not yet the sprawling cities we envision today. Instead, they served as cool, secure storage spaces for food and supplies, or as temporary shelters from the harsh elements or passing raiders. It was a practical beginning, a foundational idea etched into the rock. This foundational work was then built upon by later cultures, including the Phrygians and the Persians. Each civilization that occupied this land saw the potential in the existing tunnels and rooms. They did not simply occupy the spaces they found. They expanded them, refined them, and adapted them for their own unique needs. A simple Hittite storage pit might have been enlarged by Phrygian hands into a more substantial shelter. A Persian community might have deepened a well or carved out a new chamber for communal gatherings. The rock itself became a living archive, its layers recording a continuous story of human adaptation. The motivations evolved from simple practicality to something more complex, blending survival with a deepening spiritual connection to the earth. So who were these first excavators? They were not a single people but a chain of cultures, each adding a new chapter to a story written in stone. The rock's softness was a gift, but the world above was a constant threat. Imagine a community watching the horizon, seeing the dust cloud of an approaching army. Their entire world could vanish beneath the earth in a matter of hours. This was the stark reality that drove the most dramatic expansions of the subterranean cities. Defense was not just a feature, it was the very reason for their existence. The entrance to this hidden world was never obvious. Often, it was a mere hole in the ground, disguised to look like a dry well or a natural crevice. This narrow opening was a deadly funnel. An invading soldier could only enter one at a time, crouched and vulnerable, while defenders waited in the darkness. The tunnels beyond were not straight corridors. They twisted and turned, often descending at sharp angles, forcing any attacker to move slowly and disorientingly. But the true genius lay in the traps. Massive, circular stone doors weighing hundreds of pounds could be rolled across key passageways, sealing off entire sections of the city. These stone barriers were so precisely fitted into their grooves that they were impossible to force open from the other side. An army could occupy the surface for months, never knowing that a thriving community was living quietly just beneath their feet. The people below had everything they needed. Hidden ventilation shafts cleverly dispersed to look like natural rock fissures provided a constant supply of fresh air. Deep, protected wells tapped into underground water sources. Storage chambers were packed with grains, dried meats, and olives, enough to sustain hundreds of people for a very long time. The city was a self-contained fortress, a masterpiece of passive defense where the best strategy was simply to disappear. This was not merely hiding, it was a sophisticated form of communal protection that turned the earth itself into an impenetrable shield. Yet the stone doors were not just defenses against armies, they also sealed a sanctuary for the spirit. When the early Christians faced persecution from the Roman Empire, these dark tunnels became more than a hiding place. They became a holy refuge, a secret world where a forbidden faith could not only survive but truly flourish. Deep underground, they carved out entire churches with vaulted ceilings and rows of pews all hewn from the living rock. You can still see the evidence today in the faint, graceful frescoes that adorn the walls. These are not the grand, public artworks of later centuries. These are intimate, heartfelt images of saints and biblical scenes, painted in secrecy by the light of oil lamps. Simple crosses are etched into door frames, a quiet declaration of belief in a space where such declarations were dangerous. In one chamber, you might find a baptismal font, a hollowed-out stone where new members were welcomed into the community away from the hostile world above. Another room, small and secluded, would have served as a scriptorium where sacred texts were meticulously copied and preserved. For these communities, the underground city was a complete spiritual universe. The very act of descending was a passage into a sacred realm. The silence of the earth was not emptiness, but a profound stillness perfect for prayer and contemplation. Here, far from Roman soldiers and prying eyes, they could practice their rituals, teach their children, and strengthen their bonds without fear. This was existence with a dual purpose. Every tunnel provided physical security, while every chapel nourished the soul. The need for religious freedom did not just occupy these spaces, it consecrated them, transforming simple shelters into a deeply revered underground kingdom of faith. But these cities offered more than just safety from armies and persecution. They provided a remarkably comfortable and sustainable way of life, perfectly adapted to the harsh climate of the Anatolian plateau. The temperature above ground can swing from blistering heat in the summer to freezing cold in the winter. Yet deep within the earth, the temperature remains constant and mild all year round. The thick layers of volcanic rock act as a natural insulator, creating a perfectly stable environment. This passive climate control meant that the inhabitants needed no complex heating systems to survive the winter and no cooling systems to endure the summer. It was a form of ancient, masterful engineering that required no fuel at all. Think of the energy we expend today to heat and cool our homes. These ancient builders achieved the same result simply by understanding the earth. They lived in harmony with their environment in a way that feels incredibly advanced, even by modern standards. This stable climate was essential for preserving food as well. Vast storage chambers, kept cool and dry by the surrounding stone, could hold grains, wine, and oil for months, even years, protecting the community's most vital resources from spoilage. The ventilation shafts, so crucial for bringing in fresh air, also helped to regulate humidity, preventing the damp, stagnant conditions you might expect so far underground. This created a living space that was not just survivable, but genuinely comfortable and healthy for long-term habitation. Large, open communal rooms provided space for social life, for families to gather and children to play, all within a pleasant, consistent atmosphere. This reveals a profound truth about these subterranean cities. They were not just a desperate refuge for times of crisis. For generations, they were a practical, intelligent, and sustainable home, a testament to a civilization that knew how to build in concert with the natural world, not in defiance of it. Walking through these cities is like navigating a vertical labyrinth designed by a master architect. The layout was never random. Each level had a distinct purpose, creating a highly organized underground metropolis. The upper floors, closest to the surface, were the bustling heart of daily life. Here you would find the main living quarters, with family rooms carved into the soft rock, their walls still bearing the marks of ancient tools. Simple hearths and niches for oil lamps suggest a space of warmth and community. Often on this same level, you would discover the churches, their locations allowing spiritual life to remain accessible even in the deepest hiding places. Descending further, the middle levels transformed into the city's industrial and logistical center. Vast, circular chambers served as storage silos for grains, legumes, and other essential foods, their cool, dark interiors preserving supplies for years. In other rooms, you find deep pits carved into the floor, unmistakably wine presses. The presence of wineries speaks volumes about life here. This was not a society merely surviving in panic. They were producing wine, a commodity for both daily consumption and trade, indicating a complex, functioning economy operating entirely out of sight. The deepest levels held the most critical infrastructure and the final sanctuaries. This is where the protected water wells were located, tapping into the aquifer far below, ensuring a fresh supply even during the longest sieges. These lower chambers also served as communal shelters, the last line of defense where the entire population could gather if the upper levels were ever breached. The connections between these specialized zones were deliberately controlled. Passageways were often narrow, forcing movement into single file, and at key junctions, those massive, wheel-shaped stone doors stood ready to be rolled into place. A single door could seal off an entire level, allowing each section to operate independently, a city within a city. This vertical zoning was a stroke of genius. It separated public life from critical resources and daily routines from emergency protocols, all while maintaining a connection through the labyrinthine stairwells. How did thousands of people coordinate such a complex existence in near total darkness? The answer is etched into the stone itself, a blueprint for survival that rivals the planning of any modern city. These massive stone doors were far more than simple barricades. They represented the final, definitive line between safety and annihilation. Picture a single slab of solid volcanic rock, shaped into a perfect wheel, as tall as a person and weighing as much as a small car. This was no crude boulder shoved into a hallway. It was a precision-engineered component, a keystone of the entire defensive system. Each door was meticulously carved to fit into a custom groove in the tunnel floor and a corresponding slot in the ceiling. This design allowed a small number of defenders, perhaps just one or two people, to leverage the door's own weight and roll it smoothly into place, sealing the passage with a deep, resonant thud. From the inside, it was a manageable, if heavy, operation of communal security. But from the outside, it was an absolute, unyielding wall. No battering ram could get proper leverage in the narrow tunnel, and the seamless fit left no edge to pry against. It was a perfect passive defense. The true stroke of tactical genius, however, was the small, carefully drilled hole right in the center of the stone. This was not a flaw or a simple handhold. This was a murder hole. While an invader was trapped in the cramped, dark space before the door, blinded and disoriented, a defender on the other side could use this opening to strike with a spear or pour boiling liquid through the gap. It also served as a tiny window, a way to assess the threat on the other side without ever exposing oneself to danger. The very existence of these doors tells us that life here was lived in a state of constant, quiet vigilance. Every family knew the location of the nearest door, and every child understood the sound of it rolling shut meant the world above had become hostile. This simple, brilliant technology turned every narrow corridor into a potential killing ground, and every citizen into a guardian of their own hidden world. The city's survival depended on a secret network of airways, its silent, steady lungs. These were the ventilation shafts, narrow chimneys meticulously carved through solid rock, some reaching heights of over 100 feet to the surface. Their function was as critical as any well or granary. Without a constant supply of fresh air, the deepest chambers would have become death traps, filled with stale, oxygen-depleted air and the dangerous buildup of gases from cooking fires and human breath. The ancient engineers solved this problem with a brilliant understanding of basic physics. They harnessed the simple principle of convection, the natural movement of air. Warm air generated by the inhabitants and their activities deep below would naturally rise. As it traveled up these narrow shafts, it created a suction effect, pulling cooler, fresh air from the surface down through other shafts and into the labyrinth of rooms and tunnels. This created a continuous, passive circulation system that required no power, no machinery, just an innate comprehension of the environment. It was a form of natural air conditioning, constantly cycling the atmosphere to keep it clean and breathable. The true mastery, however, lay in their concealment. On the surface, the openings of these vital lifelines were anything but obvious. They were disguised to look like natural cracks in the bedrock, or perhaps a simple, dry well that would attract no second glance from a searching soldier. An enemy army could camp directly above a major shaft and remain completely unaware of the bustling community drawing breath from it just below their feet. This careful camouflage extended to dispersing the shafts widely across the landscape, making it impossible to locate the full extent of the underground city by spotting its air sources. Each shaft was a marvel of dual-purpose design. It provided the essential element of life itself, fresh air, while also helping to regulate the internal climate, drawing out excess humidity and maintaining the comfortable, stable temperatures that made long-term habitation possible. Think of the sheer effort involved in carving these precise, deep channels upward through stone with only simple hand tools to guide the way. It was a monumental undertaking, driven by the absolute necessity of breath. This invisible network was the city's most vital organ, a testament to a civilization that planned not just for defense, but for the very rhythm of life sustained in the dark. But fresh air was only one part of the survival equation. The true lifeblood of these subterranean worlds was water. Without a secure and plentiful supply, even the most defensible city would succumb to thirst within days, a fact every ancient army commander knew well. The builders of Cappadocia solved this problem with astonishing foresight, demonstrating a masterful understanding of hydrology. They carved deep, narrow wells straight down through the soft rock, sometimes plunging over 100 feet to reach the pure water of underground aquifers. These were not simple holes in the ground. They were precisely engineered conduits protected deep within the city's lower levels, safe from any enemy who might try to poison the supply from the surface. This direct tap into the Earth's own filtered reservoirs provided a constant, renewable source of fresh water, completely independent of the world above. Even during a siege that lasted for months, the community below could draw up cool, clean water from these hidden depths. Yet they did not rely solely on the aquifers. Across the city, in large chambers and connecting tunnels, they carved elaborate cisterns directly into the rock. These were not simple buckets, but vast, waterproof tanks designed to catch and store every precious drop of rainwater. The system was brilliantly simple. On the surface, discrete channels carved into the rock would guide rainfall into carefully hidden entry points. The water would then trickle down, filtered naturally by the porous volcanic tuff itself, which acted as a giant stone sponge, removing impurities before the water ever reached the storage cistern. This dual system approach was the key to their resilience. The deep wells provided a permanent baseline supply, while the cisterns captured seasonal bounty, creating a buffer against drought or any potential contamination of the aquifer. The strategic placement of these water sources reveals a keen tactical mind. They were almost always located on the deepest, most secure levels of the city. This made them the final, most defensible resource, the last sanctuary within the sanctuary. Their central placement also meant a single well or large cistern could serve multiple districts, minimizing the need for dangerous travel between sections if the city was locked down. Can you picture the reassurance this provided? In the flickering lamplight, the sound of water being drawn from the well was the sound of security, of a future assured. This mastery of water management transformed a potential vulnerability into an unbreakable strength, ensuring that a community under siege would never be forced to surrender by something as simple and as deadly as thirst. The faint soot stains still visible on the ceilings of carved-out kitchens tell a story of daily life, not just survival. These were not dark, smoky pits. They were functional, shared spaces where meals were prepared for entire communities. The hearths were cleverly designed, with narrow chimneys carved upward through the rock to discreetly vent smoke to the surface, far from prying eyes. This simple feature made cooking possible, filling the air with the smell of baking bread and simmering stews, transforming a cavern into a home. The living quarters surrounding these kitchens were modest, often little more than small, rounded chambers with sleeping platforms carved directly from the stone. Yet their arrangement was deliberate, clustered around central common areas that served as the neighborhood's heart. Here, families would gather, children would play by lamplight, and the news of the day would be shared. This architecture fostered an unbreakable sense of community, a vital psychological defense against the isolation of their hidden world. The sounds of industry would have echoed softly through these halls. In one chamber, the deep, circular depression of a wine press speaks of harvests processed in the dark, the precious liquid stored in enormous ceramic jars sealed into the floors. In another, you can find the grinding stones of a mill, where grain from the vast underground silos was turned into flour. Evidence of olive oil production, with its pressing beds and collection troughs, completes the picture. This was not a subsistence economy. It was a diversified, self-sufficient system operating with impressive efficiency deep beneath the earth. They were not just storing food, they were processing raw materials into valuable, tradable goods. The ability to produce wine and oil underground points to a society that was planning for a future, not just hiding from a present threat. Social and religious life provided the rhythm and meaning for this existence. Beyond the small family niches, larger halls were clearly designed for communal gatherings, perhaps for resolving disputes, planning city maintenance, or simply sharing stories. And always close at hand were the spaces dedicated to faith. A simple, cross-etched baptismal font hollowed from a single block of stone stands as a quiet testament to the rituals that bound them together. These spiritual spaces, whether grand underground churches or small, private chapels, were the cultural anchors of the community. In a world devoid of sunlight, they created their own light, their own structure, and their own sense of normalcy. How did they maintain their identity and spirit through generations spent in the rock? The answer lies in the very ordinariness of the evidence they left behind. The winepress, the millstone, the soot-blackened kitchen ceiling, these are the marks of a people determined to live fully, no matter how deep they had to go. The same hands that carved wine presses and defensive doors also shaped spaces of breathtaking devotion. Deep within the earth, entire churches were hewn from the rock, their arched ceilings and rounded apses echoing the grand basilicas of the world above, but hidden from it. These were not dark, gloomy caves. They were vibrant artistic sanctuaries, their walls alive with intricate frescoes painted in rich reds, deep blues, and brilliant golds. Scenes from the Bible unfolded in the lamplight, depicting the life of Christ, the saints, and stories of salvation. The stable, dark environment of the underground world acted as a perfect preservative, protecting these pigments from sunlight and weather, allowing their beauty to survive for centuries with a stunning clarity you would never find in a surface church of the same age. This art was more than decoration. It was an act of defiant faith, a way to proclaim and teach their beliefs in a world that sought to suppress them. In the flickering glow, these paintings were not just seen, they were experienced, transforming stone into scripture and a hidden chamber into a window to heaven. Beyond the main chapels, the spiritual infrastructure expanded. Monks and devout scholars lived in small, austere cells carved into the rock, their days dedicated to prayer and study. Communal refectories provided space for shared meals, a practice that strengthened the bonds of their spiritual family. And in quiet scriptoriums lit by precious oil lamps, scribes meticulously copied sacred texts onto parchment. The gentle scratching of their quills was a sound of profound resilience, ensuring that their teachings, laws, and history would be preserved and passed down through generations, even while they lived in secrecy. This reveals a profound truth about the human spirit. The drive for spiritual expression is not a luxury reserved for times of peace and safety. It is a fundamental need, as vital as air or water. For these communities, creating beauty in the dark was an act of hope, a declaration that their identity and their connection to the divine would not be extinguished by the threats of the world above. Their most profound legacy is not just that they survived, but that they chose to create a civilization of faith, art, and learning while they were hiding. Even with all we know, the full scale of these subterranean cities remains a profound mystery. While visitors can explore several levels of places like Derinkuyu, the journey does not end where the public pathways stop. Far below the familiar chambers and chapels, the deepest passages descend into absolute blackness, often sealed by ancient rockfalls or deliberately blocked by massive stone doors that have not been opened in centuries. This intentional closure raises an irresistible question. What did the builders so desperately want to protect, or perhaps to hide forever from the world above? The silence of these sealed thresholds is a powerful lure, fueling endless speculation about the secrets they guard. Could these bottom levels contain remnants of the very first excavators, the Hittites, whose original work might lie buried beneath all the later Christian expansions? Some archaeologists theorize that the lowest depths were the ultimate refuge, a final sanctuary used only during the most catastrophic invasions, a place so secure that its very existence was known only to a chosen few. Others wonder if these chambers held something beyond simple survival, perhaps spaces for rituals so secretive that they were never recorded, their purpose lost to time. The most tantalizing theory of all suggests that these deep tunnels are not dead ends but portals. Could they connect to other, entirely separate subterranean networks that have yet to be discovered, a hidden web of cities sprawling beneath the entire region? Modern technology offers glimpses but no definitive answers. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed tantalizing voids and anomalies extending far deeper than any excavated section, hinting at a scale we can only guess at. The physical challenges of exploration are immense, requiring navigations of unstable tunnels and the moving of monumental stones, all while preserving the fragile integrity of the ancient site. For now, these deepest levels stand as the final frontier of Cappadocian exploration. They hold the last, unread chapters of this underground story, a permanent invitation to wonder what truth still lies sleeping in the dark, waiting for the light to finally reach them. The possibility of a hidden map carved beneath the entire region transforms these cities from isolated refuges into a single, unified territory. Modern technology offers tantalizing clues to this grand design. Ground-penetrating radar has scanned the Earth beneath Cappadocia, revealing not just the voids we already know, but countless other anomalies, unexplained cavities, and what appear to be long, thin passageways stretching into the darkness between known cities. These are not just empty spaces, they are the ghostly signatures of a potential network, a subterranean web that might link Derinkuyu to Kaymaklı and beyond. The radar cannot tell us if these tunnels are still open or what they contain, only that the earth below is far from solid. This scientific evidence strangely echoes local folklore passed down for generations. Old tales speak of secret highways, passageways so long that a person could walk for days underground, emerging dozens of miles away in a completely different valley. Think of the implication. A family in one city, hearing rumors of an approaching army, could theoretically gather their belongings and flee not to the surface, but deeper into the earth, traveling in safety and secrecy to another entire city. This was not just a hiding place, it was an underground nation with its own hidden roads. The sheer logistics of such an undertaking are almost beyond comprehension. How many generations of workers would it take to carve tunnels for dozens of miles through solid rock, even soft rock, using only hand tools? The coordination of such a project implies a level of social organization and long-term vision that rivals the building of the Great Pyramids. It suggests a shared purpose across different cities and centuries, a collective commitment to creating a permanent alternative world beneath their feet. Was there a master plan, a central authority that directed this colossal excavation? Or did each community slowly, organically, dig toward its neighbors until their separate sanctuaries were gradually stitched together into one vast domain? The idea of a hidden map is not just a romantic notion. It is a functional necessity for such a complex system. This potential interconnectivity forces us to reconsider everything. We are no longer looking at individual cities, but at the scattered districts of a single, magnificent, and largely unexplored subterranean metropolis. Scattered throughout the labyrinth are vertical passages that plunge into darkness, their purpose far less obvious than a simple air shaft or well. These narrow chimneys, sometimes only wide enough for a child to squeeze through, are carved with the same precision as every other feature, yet their function remains one of the underground's most hotly debated puzzles. While ventilation and water were essential, some of these shafts seem deliberately misplaced or designed for something else entirely. They appear in odd corners, away from main living areas, or descend at angles that serve no clear structural need. Their existence suggests a hidden layer of complexity to daily life here, a set of problems and solutions we are still trying to decipher. One compelling theory posits they were emergency escape routes. In the event a main entrance was discovered and breached, these tight, hidden passages could offer a last, desperate path to the surface or to a different, safer section of the city. Imagine the terror of a lockdown, the sound of a stone door sealing your family in, and the only way out being a terrifying vertical climb into absolute unknown darkness. Another idea is that they functioned as ancient communication tubes. Sound travels with remarkable clarity through such narrow stone channels. A whisper spoken into the top of one shaft could be heard clearly dozens of feet below, allowing for silent, secure messaging between levels without anyone needing to navigate the treacherous stairways. This would have been a vital nervous system for a city on alert, a way to coordinate defenses or relay urgent news without revealing movement. The most intriguing theory, however, connects these shafts to the heavens. Their precise, straight vertical alignment could have served as primitive astronomical observatories. On specific nights of the year, a beam of moonlight or the light from a particular star might have shone directly down the shaft, illuminating a specific mark on the floor below. This would have allowed the people deep underground to track the passing of seasons, determine religious holidays, and maintain a cosmic calendar, all from their world of stone. The very precision of their engineering is the strongest clue that their purpose was critical. These were not afterthoughts or failed experiments. They were meticulously planned and executed components of a sophisticated underground society. This moves us beyond seeing these cities as mere shelters. They were integrated environments where practical survival, spiritual belief, and advanced scientific understanding converged. The true function of these enigmatic shafts may never be known for certain, and that is the heart of their power. They stand as a permanent question mark, a reminder that for all we have uncovered, the deepest motivations of these ancient builders are still hidden in the rock. The precision carved into every tunnel and chamber reveals an engineering intellect that defies simple explanation. This was not guesswork. The builders possessed a profound, almost intuitive understanding of structural physics, calculating load-bearing stresses with an accuracy that has kept these underground metropolises intact for millennia. How did they achieve this without modern mathematics or tools? Their knowledge was written in the stone itself. They knew to carve arched ceilings and rounded doorways, shapes that distribute weight evenly and prevent collapse. They left strategic pillars of untouched rock at key intersections, natural supports that functioned like the columns in a modern building. This was a wisdom born from deep observation and generations of accumulated trial and error, a living science passed from master to apprentice. The stability of a city level, the width of a corridor, the thickness of a wall, every measurement was a life or death calculation. One miscalculation in the soft tuff could have meant a catastrophic cave-in, burying entire families and their sanctuary. Their success is measured by the sheer endurance of their work, a silent testament to a forgotten school of engineering that rivaled any in the ancient world. This practical mastery extended to the invisible systems that gave the city life. The ventilation shafts were not just holes poked upward at random. Their placement, diameter, and depth were meticulously planned to create a constant passive airflow. The builders understood convection currents, how warm air rises and cool air sinks, and they harnessed this natural principle to build a breathing city. Similarly, the water wells and cisterns were positioned with a hydrologist's foresight, tapping into aquifers and channeling rainwater with flawless efficiency. The source of this advanced knowledge remains one of the great enigmas. Was it purely local genius refined over centuries by Hittite, Phrygian, and Christian hands, each culture adding to a growing body of subterranean wisdom? Or does the sheer sophistication of the designs hint at a more mysterious origin, perhaps the influence of traveling engineers from other advanced civilizations, or even the application of technologies now lost to history? The cities do not give up their secrets easily. They stand as a monument not to a single brilliant mind, but to the collective, practical intelligence of a people who learned to read the earth itself, transforming its hidden veins into a masterpiece of survival. The original blueprints for these cities were written over long before the first Christian ever sought refuge. While the frescoes and crosses tell one story, the stone itself tells another, far older one. Architectural details and advanced carbon dating of soot and organic remains reveal a shocking truth. Some of the deepest chambers and most fundamental tunnels are not 2,000 years old, but perhaps 3,000 or even more. This pushes their origins back into the murky twilight of the Bronze Age, centuries before the rise of Rome or the birth of Christianity. The evidence is not in grand inscriptions, but in the subtle language of construction. The shape of a doorway, the method of carving, the wear patterns on a stairwell, all whisper of a different hand from a different time. Imagine a Christian family using a room they did not carve, descending a staircase worn smooth by feet that belonged to a civilization they likely never knew existed. They were living inside a borrowed, ancient shell. So who were these first architects? All clues point toward the Hittites, a formidable empire that dominated Anatolia over 3,000 years ago. Historical records describe the Hittites as masters of stone, famed for their fortified cities and monumental gateways. It is perfectly plausible that they were the first to recognize the potential of Cappadocia's soft tuff, not for grand cities on the surface, but for secure, temperature-controlled storage complexes and shelters deep below it. They may have carved the foundational core, the initial impulse to go underground. Yet, a conclusive link remains maddeningly elusive. The Hittites did not leave behind clear labels or dedicatory plaques in these subterranean halls. The problem is one of continuous reuse. Each successive culture, from the Phrygians to the Persians and finally the early Christians, did not simply move into these spaces as they found them. They actively recycled them. A Hittite storage chamber might have been widened by the Phrygians to serve as a stable. A Persian ritual space could have been replastered and painted over by Christians to become a chapel. Every generation carved away a little more of the evidence, adapting the underground landscape to their immediate needs. This has created a profound archaeological palimpsest. A palimpsest was an ancient parchment where the original text was scraped away so the page could be reused, but faint traces of the first writing often remained visible beneath the new. The subterranean cities are a physical, three-dimensional version of this. The original Hittite script is there, but it has been written over again and again by later inhabitants. Unraveling this layered history requires more than shovels and brushes. It demands a delicate forensic science, analyzing microscopic tool marks, studying the molecular composition of plaster layers, and using radiocarbon dating on the smallest fragments of charcoal left by ancient fires. The search for the first architects is not just about assigning credit. It is about understanding the foundational moment when humanity in this region first looked downward for security, setting in motion a project that would span millennia. Who were these visionary people who began digging with such purpose, and what world were they trying to escape? The answers are still buried, waiting for their story to be read in the stone one last time. This final enigma is perhaps the most haunting of all. After centuries of continuous habitation, the subterranean cities of Cappadocia were completely and utterly abandoned. The echoes of life faded, the last oil lamp was extinguished, and a profound silence fell, not to be broken for hundreds of years. The mystery is not that people left, but why they never returned. Historical records from the era are frustratingly vague, offering no clear account of this mass exodus. The clues, instead, are etched into the empty chambers themselves. There are no signs of a panicked flight, no evidence of conflict or collapse. The cities were left in an orderly state. Valuable items, from stored grain to tools and religious artifacts, were systematically removed. This was not a frantic escape from an imminent threat. It was a deliberate, planned departure. So what could have compelled an entire population to turn its back on such a masterpiece of security and comfort? One prevailing theory points to a fundamental shift in the political landscape. With the rise of the Byzantine Empire and the eventual acceptance of Christianity, the world above ground became significantly safer for these communities. Persecution ceased, and the faith they once practiced in secret could now be celebrated openly in grand, sunlit churches. The very reason for their hidden existence had simply vanished. The threat of invasion also diminished with stronger, more stable central powers controlling the region. The underground city, for all its ingenuity, was a life of hardship. Why endure the darkness when you could live freely in the light? Another possibility is that a slow but relentless geological event made the cities uninhabitable. A major earthquake could have collapsed critical ventilation shafts or blocked the vital water sources, rendering the entire environment untenable. Alternatively, a gradual sinking of the water table could have dried up the wells, turning a sanctuary into a desert of stone. The effort to restore such complex systems may have been beyond the means of the community, forcing a reluctant but necessary evacuation to the surface. The most poignant scenario is a quiet, generational drift. As the immediate memory of danger faded, the younger generations may have simply preferred the open skies and fertile fields above. The underground world, a place of safety for their grandparents, became a relic of a fearful past. Life slowly migrated upward until one day, the last family gathered their belongings, rolled the great stone door shut for the final time, and walked away. The silence they left behind was absolute. It is a silence that asks us what we would do if the walls we built for our survival were no longer needed. Would we cling to the fortress, or would we have the courage to leave it behind and step into an uncertain but free world? The profound silence that fell over the cities was broken not by an army, but by a single hammer. In the 1960s, a local farmer in the town of Derinkuyu was working on his home, a structure built directly into the rock face. When a section of his wall crumbled, it revealed not solid earth, but a dark, gaping void. Clearing away the rubble, he found himself at the top of a steep staircase descending into a blackness so deep his lantern light could not penetrate it. This accidental discovery, which would soon captivate the world, was not actually the finding of something lost. The local people had always known something was down there. They spoke of old stories, of caves that went deep, of strange drafts of air coming from fissures in the ground. For generations, these tales were part of the landscape, a whispered history not entirely forgotten, just waiting for a doorway to be opened. The farmer's hammer did not discover the city. It simply reminded the world of its existence. This event sparked the first systematic archaeological expeditions. Teams of researchers, armed with ropes and powerful lights, began the careful work of mapping the abyss. What they found exceeded all expectation. They did not uncover a simple cave complex or a small cluster of rooms. They revealed a metropolis. Level after level, they documented the sprawling layout of Derinkuyu, eventually mapping 18 stories descending into the earth, with space for thousands of people. The world outside was stunned. Newspapers and magazines carried stories of this incredible underground world, a forgotten civilization hidden beneath the Turkish soil. Almost overnight, Cappadocia was transformed. It shifted from a remote region known for its strange surface formations into a global destination, a place of pilgrimage for historians, archaeologists, and curious travelers from every corner of the planet. This international recognition culminated in the region being declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, officially protecting its unique landscape, both above and below the ground, as a treasure for all humanity. The cities built for secrecy were now celebrated in the open. This new chapter brought its own set of challenges and wonders. The very act of welcoming the world required a new kind of engineering. Safe pathways had to be carved for visitors, lighting systems installed to illuminate the ancient darkness, and ventilation improved to accommodate the breath of countless tourists. The modern world was gently, carefully threaded into the ancient stone. Today, you can walk those same stairs, your footsteps echoing where once a community moved in hushed urgency. You can stand in the vast storage halls and touch the soot-blackened ceilings of the kitchens. The cities, once a shield against the outside, now serve as a bridge, connecting us directly to the lives, fears, and ingenuity of the people who called this darkness home. Their story of isolation has become one of global connection, their final secret not a hidden treasure, but the enduring power of their silent stone testimony. The silent stone yields its secrets not to the brute force of a pickaxe, but to the gentle hum of a machine. Modern archaeology has transformed from a science of excavation into one of delicate listening, using tools that allow us to see through solid rock without ever breaking its surface. Ground-penetrating radar is the most vital of these, a device that sends pulses of energy deep into the earth and listens for the echoes. When those waves hit a void, like an empty chamber or a tunnel, they bounce back with a different signature. It is a form of echolocation, painting a ghostly map of the emptiness below, revealing the outlines of rooms and passageways no human has entered in over 1,000 years. This technology confirms the staggering scale hinted at in folklore, showing anomalies and cavities that stretch far beyond the boundaries of any known city. The radar cannot tell us what is inside those rooms, only that they are there, a permanent invitation to wonder what they contain. This non-invasive approach is complemented by the incredible precision of three-dimensional laser scanning. As an archaeologist walks through an excavated tunnel, they can use a laser scanner to capture every single detail of the space with millimeter accuracy. The scanner fires millions of laser points, recording the exact dimensions of the room, the subtle tool marks on the walls, the precise angle of a staircase, and even the faint traces of ancient soot on the ceiling. This creates a perfect digital twin of the environment, a record so precise it can be studied for years from anywhere in the world. Researchers can use these models to run structural analyses, understanding exactly how these ceilings have held their immense weight for so long, or to visualize airflow patterns that would have been critical for ventilation. Drone photography adds another layer to this digital reconstruction, capturing high-resolution images of the entire surface landscape. By overlaying the surface features with the subterranean radar data, archaeologists can finally see the direct relationship between a hidden air shaft on the map and the almost invisible crack in the ground above it. This holistic view is revealing a planned, intelligent system where every surface feature was integrated with the world below. The guiding principle now is preservation over discovery. The soft volcanic tuff that made these cities possible is also incredibly fragile. The scrape of a shovel, the touch of a careless hand, or even the moisture from 1,000 breaths can slowly erode the very history we seek to understand. Because of this, physical excavation is treated as a last resort, undertaken only to answer a specific, critical question or to stabilize a collapsing section. When digging does occur, it is a painstakingly slow process, more akin to surgery than to construction. Archaeologists use dental picks and soft brushes to remove sediment grain by grain, always watching for the smallest artifact, a burnt seed, a shard of pottery, a lost bead that can tell a story. The goal is no longer to empty a chamber, but to understand it, to read the layers of history like the pages of a book without tearing them. This marriage of cutting-edge technology and profound respect is the new frontier of exploration. We are learning to listen to the past, and in that quiet listening, the stone is finally beginning to speak. What long-held secrets will it choose to whisper next? The rock that gave these cities life now threatens their existence. This soft volcanic tuff, so perfect for carving, is incredibly fragile. The gentle scrape of a tourist's backpack, the moisture from 1,000 breaths, even the subtle vibrations of footsteps are slowly sanding down the ancient walls. Every touch, no matter how careful, wears away a microscopic layer of history. This is the central paradox of Cappadocia today. The global fascination that brought these cities back into the light is the very thing that now endangers them. Conservationists are engaged in a silent, constant battle against this slow decay. Their work is not about grand discoveries, but about meticulous, almost invisible interventions. They reinforce cracked lintels with non-invasive resins, monitor humidity levels with digital sensors, and carefully clean soot from frescoes without damaging the original pigments. The greatest enemy is water. A single leaking pipe or an unnoticed crack in the surface can channel water deep into the structure, softening the tuff and leading to catastrophic collapses. Teams work to redirect natural water flow and seal fissures, fighting the very element that helped sculpt this landscape millions of years ago. Managing human presence is an even more complex puzzle. How do you share a wonder with the world without loving it to death? The answer lies in a carefully choreographed system of sustainable tourism. Visitor numbers are strictly limited, with timed entry tickets that prevent overcrowding. Walkways are strategically placed to guide the flow of people away from the most delicate frescoes and unstable chambers. In some areas, protective glass panels create a vital barrier, allowing visitors to see the art while shielding it from the oils on our skin and the carbon dioxide in our breath. The goal is not to keep people out, but to ensure that a child visiting in 50 years will have the same chance to stand in awe of this underground world. This is a race against time, fought with soft brushes, climate data, and thoughtful planning. It asks a difficult question of every person who walks these halls. Are we mere spectators of history, or are we its temporary guardians, responsible for passing its silent story onward into the future? This landscape of stone whispers to storytellers. Long after the last inhabitants climbed to the surface, the fairy chimneys and hidden depths of Cappadocia began a new life in the realm of imagination. They became a blank canvas for our deepest metaphors, a ready-made stage for tales of mystery and refuge. The French writer and aviator Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, for instance, is said to have drawn direct inspiration from the region's lonely spires. Look closely at his original illustrations for The Little Prince, and you can see the echo of Cappadocia in the solitary, majestic form of the prince's own asteroid home, a single figure standing atop a world both strange and familiar. This is no coincidence. The land's inherent surrealism makes it a natural setting for stories that exist just beyond the edge of our everyday reality. In science fiction and fantasy cinema, the otherworldly valleys and subterranean labyrinths have doubled for alien planets and forgotten realms, their unearthly beauty requiring very little digital enhancement. The cities themselves serve as a powerful symbol for the hidden parts of the human experience. In literature, they frequently appear as repositories of lost knowledge or sanctuaries for ancient wisdom, a secret waiting patiently beneath the surface for the right person to discover it. They represent the idea that the most profound truths are often concealed, protected from the casual glance. This cultural resonance has transformed Cappadocia from a physical place into a global icon. You do not need to have visited Turkey to understand what these underground cities represent. They have become a universal shorthand for resilience, for the stubborn human capacity to create light in the deepest darkness, and for the enduring allure of the unknown. The very stones that provided physical shelter now offer a different kind of sanctuary, one for the creative spirit, ensuring that the legacy of these hollow hills continues to grow far beyond their geological borders. What is it about this hidden world that speaks so directly to our collective dreams? Perhaps it is the simple, powerful reassurance that no matter how hostile the surface may seem, there is always a place of safety, real or imagined, waiting just beneath our feet. Cappadocia's hidden world feels utterly unique, yet it is part of a profound global pattern. From the echoing chambers of Malta's Hal Saflieni hypogeum to the sun-bleached cliffs of Petra in Jordan, human beings across the ages have made the same fundamental choice to seek shelter within the earth. Each of these subterranean marvels is a distinct answer to a local crisis, a testament to our shared ingenuity when faced with existential threats. Malta's hypogeum, for instance, is a labyrinthine temple complex carved from solid limestone, a sacred space dedicated entirely to ritual and the dead. Its dark, oracle chambers and carefully aligned passages speak to a spiritual motivation, a desire to connect with underworld deities far from the light of day. This stands in stark contrast to the practical origins of Kuba Pedi in the Australian outback. Here, in the 20th century, opal miners escaped the brutal, relentless desert heat by moving their entire lives underground, carving out comfortable homes, churches, and shops in the cool, stable earth. Theirs was a story of economic survival, a direct response to an unforgiving climate. Petra, the rose-red city, presents another fascinating variation. While its most famous structures are the majestic facades carved into cliff faces, the Nabateans also engineered an immense network of underground cisterns, tunnels, and chambers. Their genius was in water management, creating a hidden hydraulic system that allowed a city to flourish in the heart of a desert. So while one culture carved for its gods, and another for its comfort, and another for its water, the underlying impulse remained the same. When the surface world becomes hostile, humanity's instinct is to dig in, to build a new world in the quiet dark. Yet, when we place Cappadocia alongside these other wonders, its scale and ambition become even more breathtaking. It was not a single-purpose temple, a mining town, or a hydraulic system. It was all of these things at once and more. Cappadocia was a true, self-sufficient metropolis, a vertical city designed for thousands of people to live, work, worship, and defend themselves for months on end. Its 18 levels of interconnected infrastructure, from wineries to schools to fortified stone doors, represent a pinnacle of subterranean urban planning unmatched anywhere else on Earth. This global perspective does not diminish Cappadocia's story. Instead, it elevates it, framing its silent halls not as an isolated curiosity, but as humanity's most elaborate and enduring love letter to the safety of the underground. The future of discovery here may not require a human step at all. Imagine a fleet of micro-robotic scouts, each no larger than your hand, equipped with delicate sensors and powerful lights. These tiny explorers could navigate the treacherous, unstable passages that are far too dangerous for people, squeezing through cracks that have been sealed for millennia. Their mission would be to map the unknown, venturing into the absolute blackness beyond the final stone door. They might transmit back the first images of chambers untouched since the day they were abandoned, revealing wall carvings, artifacts, or even older construction layers hidden beneath the Christian-era plaster, offering a direct glimpse into the world of the Hittites. The very soil beneath our feet holds another kind of secret, one written in a microscopic code. Advanced DNA analysis can now extract genetic material from ancient soil samples. By studying this preserved environmental DNA, scientists could reconstruct the daily lives of the inhabitants with astonishing intimacy. They could identify the specific grains stored in the silos, the types of livestock kept in the pens, and even the bacteria present in their gut, revealing details about their diet, their health, and the diseases they faced. This genetic dust could even trace the geographical origins of different communities, showing the migration patterns of the people who sought refuge here, proving whether they were locals or travelers from distant lands. These non-invasive technologies are our new keys to the past. Advanced imaging techniques that use muons, subatomic particles that rain down from the atmosphere, could one day allow us to create three-dimensional maps of the entire underground network in unprecedented detail, visualizing entire cities without moving a single stone. Each technological leap brings a promise, the potential to stumble upon a room filled with intact scrolls, a king's burial chamber, or a hidden archive that holds the true names of the first builders. The story of Cappadocia is not a closed book. It is a manuscript with missing pages, and the next great discovery, the one that rewrites our understanding of this underground world, might be waiting for the right machine to turn the page. Your journey into the depths begins with a practical choice between two of the grandest underground cities, Derinkuyu and Kaymaklı. Derinkuyu astounds with its sheer scale, plunging 18 stories deep and featuring a massive, complex ventilation shaft that served as its central lung. Kaymaklı, while not as vertically profound, spreads out in a sprawling, intricate web of tunnels and chambers, offering a different sense of its vast, interconnected layout. Each city has a distinct personality, a unique fingerprint carved into the stone. To truly grasp the meaning behind the stone doors and hidden churches, a guided tour is not just a recommendation, it is essential. A knowledgeable guide will point out the subtle details you would certainly miss on your own, like the faint etchings that marked family quarters or the specific angle of a tunnel designed for defense. They provide the stories that turn cold stone into a living history, ensuring you understand you are walking through a meticulously engineered masterpiece, not just a series of empty caves. This context transforms the entire experience from a simple sightseeing trip into a meaningful voyage through time. Preparing for this voyage means dressing for a journey into the earth itself. Sturdy, closed-toe shoes with reliable grip are your most important piece of equipment. You will be navigating steep, uneven staircases worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, and the floors can be unexpectedly slippery. The air underground is cool and constant, so a light jacket is wise even on a hot day. Most importantly, you must be mentally prepared for the environment. There will be moments when you turn a corner and the passageway narrows dramatically, forcing you to walk single file through a corridor that seems to press in from all sides. You will descend stairwells into profound darkness with only the modern lighting to guide your way. This is not a place for those with severe claustrophobia, but for most, the slight discomfort is a small price to pay for the awe-inspiring perspective it provides. You are not just learning about history, you are physically feeling the weight of the world these people built beneath their feet. To fully absorb the profound silence and scale of these cities, timing your visit is crucial. The summer months bring intense heat above ground and massive crowds below, which can turn the narrow passages into a slow-moving river of people, making quiet contemplation nearly impossible. The ideal times are the shoulder seasons of spring and autumn. During these months, the weather above is mild and the crowds are significantly thinner. Visiting early in the morning or later in the afternoon can also grant you a more personal, almost solitary encounter with the past. In these quieter moments, as you stand alone in a vast, empty hall, you can almost hear the echoes of ancient life, the faint whispers of a community that found safety in the dark. This is when the connection to the past feels most immediate and powerful. Every visitor becomes a guardian of this fragile world. The soft volcanic tuff that allowed for its creation is also incredibly vulnerable. The brush of a hand, the scrape of a backpack, these small actions slowly but surely erode the very history you have come to see. Stay on the marked pathways, never touch the walls or the ancient frescoes, and follow all instructions from your guide without exception. The preservation of this site depends on the respect of every single person who walks through it. You are a temporary guest in a home that has survived for millennia. Your footsteps trace the same paths once taken by families, priests, and defenders, connecting your story to theirs across the vast expanse of time. A trip here is more than a tour. It is a pilgrimage to the very heart of human resilience. The silent stone of Cappadocia holds more than just empty chambers. It cradles the very essence of the human spirit. These subterranean cities are a timeless testament to ingenuity and resilience, a profound declaration that safety and spiritual freedom are worth carving from the rock itself. From their mysterious origins with the Hittites to the breathtaking sophistication of their ventilation and defense, these hidden metropolises forever challenge what we believe ancient people were capable of achieving. They were not primitive cave dwellers, they were urban planners, hydraulic engineers, and master artists operating in a world of their own creation. This story reminds us that history is not always written on the surface for all to see. The most powerful narratives are often concealed in the depths, waiting patiently for a curious mind to uncover the tales of communities that chose to thrive in the dark against impossible odds. As we finally surface from this exploration, carrying the cool, still air of the underground with us, let the enduring mystery of what still lies beneath inspire your own curiosity. What other hidden chapters of our world are sleeping just out of sight, holding secrets that could reshape our understanding of the past? We would love to hear your thoughts on these incredible cities in the comments below. If this journey into the Earth resonated with you, subscribe for more explorations into history's greatest enigmas. The next mystery is always waiting.